Hello, my name is Mikea James, and I would like to welcome you to my blog, Mikea's Monologue. Today, I want to start by sharing with you a quote from Carolyn Miller that says, "Our soulmates seldom appeal to our personalities or our ego. That's why they're called soulmates rather than ego mates." So just to expound on that, I'm going to talk about the difference in an ego mate versus a soul mate. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're probably thinking about the Beyonce song, "He has a big ego." That's not what I'm talking about. An ego mate is someone you love because you love how they look to the world. Meaning, you love the way they look. You love the kind of car they drive. You love the job they have. You love how much money they make. That's because they appeal to your ego. But if you're truly looking for a soulmate, you're looking for somebody completely different. A soulmate is someone you love because you love how they look at the world. Meaning, you love the very heart of that person. You love the way that person treats people. You love the way that person treats you. One of the questions that I battled for years in my 20s was, is it important to be attracted to my mate? And when someone asked me that question, my answer was, yeah, it's important. Because if I'm not attracted to this man, this relationship just ain't gonna work. And all I can say is now, life and maturity will teach you some things. And I'm going to share with you a story, but first, I want to talk to you about my type. I was so stuck on my type. I wanted a Amari Hardwick, and for those of you who don't know who Amari Hardwick is, some people know him as Ghost from Power. Like, that was my type. I wanted my man to be light-skinned, suave, pretty hair, make some pretty babies. But not saying that the Morris Chestnuts and the handsome chocolate men aren't handsome and aren't sexy. I just wanted my type, my ideal, what I had created in my mind to be who I thought I wanted or who I thought I could see myself with. Yeah, I was very shallow and stupid and young and immature. And that's why I'm making this video, because I want to help share with people what I learned based on my experiences as well. But before I go into my story, I wanted to share with you a verse from 1 Samuel 16:7 that says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or his stature, because I have rejected him. Man does not see what the Lord sees, for man sees what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart." This pretty much describes what I learned. And what I learned was that sometimes what you think you want or what you have in mind for what your soulmate should look like, it just may not be what God has in mind. For example, right here, what I just read to you said, don't look at his outward appearance, because God has chosen him because of his heart. And I believe that that could be the case, or that is the case for us too, when it comes to picking a mate. Now, I'm not saying that your mate won't be someone that you're attracted to or someone that you think is amazingly handsome and who meets some of your qualifications on paper. However, what I'm saying is what you have created in your mind just may not be what God had in mind. So I'm going to share with you a story and how I finally got to a point where I changed my mind about how I viewed this whole type thing. About 5 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, I was dating this guy. He was my type. He was gorgeous, he was pretty, had pretty hair, light skin, pretty smile. He also he was a very smart guy, had a very good job, had a lot going for himself, but he thought he was just as pretty as I thought I was. For example, his idea of a compliment was, I know I look good, but you look better than me. And I'm sitting there like, did he think this was a compliment? Like, really? And, you know, it gets worse. For example, you know how sometimes we, you know, if we're into somebody, we're feeling that spark, you know, because he's all handsome and he looks good and appeals to our ego. We're going to want to cuddle with him, maybe kiss on him, make out a little bit. Well, after that, he looks in the mirror and then looks at me and says, look what you did to my hair. And oh my God, I still laugh today just thinking about that. But yeah, I'm thinking, I'm confused. You know, I'm the woman. You know, sometimes, you know, us as women, we can wear wigs sometimes. Some of us wear weave and all of that. We have lashes and everything. Now, a woman can say that. But to have a man turn around and look at me and say, look what you did to my hair. Like, you know, that was a little bit much. You know, that was a little bit much to me. But not only that, did he think he was prettier than me or just as pretty as me? He just didn't treat me right. He didn't value me. He basically just didn't do much at all. Whereas I was dating other guys who really did. I had fun with them. They treated me right. They were gentlemen. They would show up to dates on time. Whereas this other guy, he was showing up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. He acted like I thought it was supposed to be a privilege to be with him. And he was just, because he was just the man, because he was so handsome and because he had all this stuff going for him and he had this nice car. Well, you know what? I tell you, I'd rather ride in a Honda Civic any day with a man who treats me right versus hanging out with a man in a Benz who treats me like crap. But to go further into this story, let me continue. Now, back to the other guys. I was hanging out with other guys who not only did they treat me better, but they showed an interest in my life. For example, I was in school. I was working on my master's, and they would ask me questions like, hey, how's school going? How's work going? You know, we would talk about those things. They would talk about my life. I knew about their life. They knew about my life. Whereas pretty boy over here, he couldn't even remember I was in school. I'd be talking to him, and I would say, yeah, I have this project tomorrow that I have to finish for school. He'd be like, you in school? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in school. I told you this about 2 months ago that I was in school. Now you don't know I'm in school? You know, so what I learned when I look back at that situation, I looked at all of the guys who I looked over because they didn't fit my type. However, because they weren't appealing to my ego, but appealing to my soul, I looked over them because I was so into or caught up in the wrong thing, in this shallow way of thinking, that I probably potentially missed out on guys who could have been a good mate for me. They could have maybe been a good boyfriend or maybe been a good husband. but I missed out on them because they didn't appeal to my ego. And today I can say that I'm not ashamed, because I believe that, like I said before, life and maturity will teach you some things. Sometimes you need to grow. And if this has been you, don't beat yourself up about it. Just try, and when you're dating, look for someone who appeals to your soul. And what I mean by that is, look at their heart. Does their heart reach out and pulls on your heartstrings? Does their heart match you and make you feel loved? It's not about what this person looks like on paper. And when I look at some of my friends or various people that I know a lot of people who said, I wanted to date somebody who was 6'4". Like, my man has to be tall, he has to be 6'4", he has to make 6 figures. But when I look at a lot of those people today, they are happily married to somebody who didn't fit that ego mate. They didn't fit their ideal, but they found their soulmate. And my prayer for you today is that you don't miss out on who God has for you because you're worried about him appealing to your ego, or you're worried about the superficial things. And then there are some of you who it's not about looks to you. It's about how he looks on paper and how much money he makes. Now, I'm not saying that a man shouldn't be a provider, because when I read the word, I see that as well, that a man should be a provider. However, I think that we can't have certain expectations on people that we don't put on ourselves. For example, I heard someone tell me once, well, I broke up with him because all he wants to do is work at Walmart. And I'm thinking to myself, don't you work at Walmart too? Like, I'm confused. I get confused when people tell me things like that, because you have no right to expect something out of somebody that you can't expect out of yourself. For example, if you aren't a certain body shape, if you don't weigh a certain amount or look a certain way, if you don't work out, how are you going to expect this man or woman to be doing these things, or expect this out of them when you don't offer those same things? So again, when you're looking for your mate or your soulmate, which 94% of people are, when they say that they're looking for someone, they're not just looking for someone, they are looking for the one. But don't miss out on the one, your soulmate, because you're worried about what they look like. Have a good day.